Ted, thank you so much for doing this. I've been telling everyone that you need to talk to practitioners when you want to learn about AI and data science and actually just analytics and data, right? And Ted is one of my favorite people because he's been through this for so long. Ted, would you like to tell them a little bit about yourself and your journey and what people are asking you at this conference and what are you learning from Gartner? Thank you.
Thanks, Arjit. I'm Ted Tsortos. I'm with Cisco Systems, and I lead a sales analytics function there. Our role is to provide insights, data and insights for our sales leadership to support decisions. We started off as a team with pretty humble origins. We started working with our own data sets in Excel. We had a lot of data analysts. And as our team matured, we needed to mature our infrastructure and our tools. For the last several years, we've spent a lot of time in terms of building a data infrastructure primarily on SAP HANA. So what we were able to do is bring all the data that sales needed on a single scalable platform. And now we're also looking at cloud technologies that we can expand to bring even more data in for sales planning decision making. The first big win in terms of that journey was to get all of our peer groups that do sales analytics on a common platform so all of our data agreed. So the first big win on our journey was making sure that we stopped these arguments around my data versus your data. So we were able to successfully achieve that, and then the next step was then to get all of the reporting aligned on that infrastructure. And that's not a technical issue. The problem when people are doing reporting is they're doing a lot of data enrichment. The data enrichment was what we wanted to capture on that data infrastructure. So the next phase of the project was to work with every single dashboard owner that was supporting sales and get their value-added data into our data infrastructure. So now what we're doing is we're running data all across the company for sales. In our SAP HANA infrastructure, we're using Tableau for a visualization, and now we're all pivoting towards analytics. And so what we're looking for is a solution that really allows us to quickly find insights. As part of that evolution, we've grown the team. We started off with data analysts that were subject matter experts in their domains. They weren't subject matter experts on data science or data analytics tools, but we've added data engineers to help scale that data enrichment. And then we've also brought in data scientists to help us with data science work. One of the first things that I discovered in working with data scientists is that they're a highly skilled resource that are probably not the best resources to scale across every single problem. A data scientist loves a really, really hard challenge, and that challenge motivates them. And so what I found was that I had to be very selective in terms of the types of projects that I assigned data scientists to. They were typically projects that would run a longer course, they were ambiguous, they required a lot of collaboration with subject matter experts and data engineers. So the gap that we had was, how do I get my data analysts to leverage data science-like capabilities to get insights from the data that we weren't seeing in our BI platforms? So I had spent some time looking at different tools that were basically in this auto ML space, auto machine learning space, auto AI space, and we had an opportunity to pilot Aible. And Aible just seems to really fit that gap in terms of the skills and the technology that we need in our technology stack. The very first thing that we found when we first piloted the tool was it was very visual. Even the data scientists are like, wow, this is like a very visually stunning platform. So before we even got into the mechanics of how the tool worked. So we tried a few different things. We tried working on projects with data that we were familiar with, but we also tried bringing in data sets that we weren't familiar with. And that's always a challenge because when you get a big data set, in our case for sales, we're expected to turn around a project typically in 90 days. Sales has more of a real-time focus. We don't have a lot of runway. So we have to become not only experts on the business that we're trying to consult with internally, but we have to become experts on their data. So when we first started using Sense, I tried it on some data sets that I just gotten my hands on, and I was able to immediately see the good data from that data set and the data that was not good, right? And then I was also able to determine, is the data not good because there's a lot of data values missing, or is the data not good because it doesn't have good insights? right? And so those were both really, really fast insights. And I was able to go back to the teams and say, why is there missing data here? Or are these fields really not as important and maybe we need to do some more enrichment? But most importantly, I was able to take a look at these data sets and immediately see what were the key levers to help drive decisions. So that was the very first observation that we had, was we were able to really quickly identify which data had the most predictive power in our projects. The next phase of the project work was then to actually explore the insights that we saw, and just to see how was everything interrelated. And again, the graphical representation of this was something that we hadn't seen before. A lot of other data science tools that we looked at, while the front end may have been graphical, usually the output was you needed someone to be able to interpret it, or it generated another data set that you then needed to bring in to a visualization platform, but it wasn't ready to consume. So what I liked about Aible was immediately just seeing the graphical user interface. It shows you in order of priority the features, but then it also shows you some insights in terms of those key features. The other great thing was that you can immediately take what you're seeing here and put it into slides. And so one of the projects that I'd worked on, we had just finished doing a customer segmentation project. Literally that day, I had a meeting the next day to give an update on our segmentation. It was just a standing weekly meeting. I was able to bring in all of the data from our segmentation project and create an insights slide deck in an hour or two by just bringing in the data and just auto-generating the slides. And I used that for my update. One of the things that kills me is to see my data analyst and a lot of my data scientists spending a lot of time in PowerPoint, because A, they're not the best PowerPoint people, but B, I want them analyzing, right? So this really helped in terms of the productivity of the tool. The next phase, which has been more challenging to test, is basically bringing in some models. So these ones were pretty straightforward to test in terms of just bringing in some data that I was familiar with or data that I wasn't familiar with. But now what we're doing is we're working with Aible, and they're an extremely collaborative partner in the sense that they're bringing in their subject matter experts to work with us and try to figure out, how do you structure the problem? Optimize is actually a key capability that we're looking for. So when somebody asked me to build, what was the charter of my team when I first started it 3 years ago, I actually said our team isn't a data science team, it's a decision science team. And what I mean by decision science is that we need to be able to support business decisions. Nobody's asking for data science output because no one knows how to interpret it. So for us, the holy grail has been, let's get all this clean data, let's get all the insights out, and let's figure out how it can support decisions. And the path that we initially went down was we were using optimization modeling. So we were trying linear optimization combined with data science. And while that works as a prototype, by the time you start collecting all the different constraints that sales leadership wanted to put in, the problems became unsolvable. So we went quickly from a prototype to a failed model. What I like about Optimize here is that it allows you to bring in those business insights from your leadership and actually evaluate different data science models and figure out which of those models are the best models in terms of your key performance indicator. If you're looking to maximize growth, you can maximize growth. If you're looking to maximize profitability, you can maximize profitability. So this is the part that we're really excited about. We're working through some different use cases with the blueprints, and we anticipate leveraging this tool pretty well for every major project where we have an executive decision that needs to see an ROI on a decision. So we're very optimistic in terms of leveraging this in more of our projects.
You were going through all these Gartner sessions, and what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it was really interesting because the Gartner kickoff, they actually talked about decision sciences, right? So I was really relieved to see that, because the only other person that I'd seen talking about decision scientists before was one of the early data science leaders at Google. And it's kind of hard to say, okay, we identify with what Google's doing because they're just so far ahead of other companies. Right. But just to see Gartner get up and say, you know what, it's all around decision science, and it's about bringing together all these different subject matter experts to make a decision. And it's part of this whole journey here, right? Is you're bringing in the BI team, you're bringing in the data infrastructure team, but more importantly, you're bringing in the subject matter experts at the beginning of the process. And rather than what a data scientist would do is normally you would say, let's build a hypothesis. There was really good discussion today around decision science. It was a separate Gartner breakout that talked about making a decision framework. right? And I thought about that's exactly what we need to do, right? Is that we know the decisions that need to be made, but I don't know all the hypotheses because I don't know the data. I haven't immersed myself, right? So that gives us, I think, a better starting point. But the exact framework that we have here with Aible is all around why did this decision happen, or what decision do we think needs to happen, right? So I really like that framework. The other message that they said was they're trying to talk about how to bring more data science into everyday projects. And they said one of the biggest failures has been bringing in data scientists, and I guess allowing them to work as data scientists they're typically graduate students, or a lot of them are PhDs. And they look at the problems as an academic problem, and they can study them for a very long time. So the observation that they presented today was data science projects need to be time bound, right? So you need to figure out how do you get to failure or success within 30 days. Now, that's not saying that success is bad, or failure is bad. It just means that you need to go back and reassess, and the decision-making conference basically said you need to go back and reassess the decisions that you made. Right, and reevaluate the decision. So it becomes iterative, right? And that's been the really hard part in terms of working with data science center of excellence teams, is you don't have that iterative exploration, the sense, the explore, and the optimize, right? So we really like that, and Gartner seems to be preaching the path that we're going on. So I feel like we're actually ahead of things now.
I like the fast follow thing, the fail fast thing that I found funny. You kind of tortured my co-founder without realizing it. If you remember that thing, Ted gave my team a data set that we were terrified. We're like, this has no signal. And you gave it to almost midnight the night before for a morning meeting. You want to tell them the story of what happened there?
Well, it's just, we were trying to, the biggest part is a lot of times people ask us about an ROI on decisions, right? And so we made a decision around sales coverage 3 years ago. And we've been trying hard to prove that it was the right decision. I mean, so anecdotally we know it was the right decision, but we were trying to put real metrics around it. So we spent probably about, 3 or 4 months working on the ultimate data set, right? We went back and restated all our historical data. It was something that no one else does at Cisco, right? So we had this big investment, and then we ran a data science model within the team, and we probably spent about another 3 weeks on top of that, and we couldn't find any relationship with the outcome, right? And so my boss said, hey, why don't we give Aible this data set? We gave them a dirty data set, and they cleaned it up and found insights, but let's give them a really clean data set, and let's just see, can they find some insights that maybe our data scientists weren't able to? And I guess you didn't, right? I mean, that's fine, right?
Because the key was, it was 5 minutes of automated analysis, and we are like, sorry, we couldn't find any signal.
Yeah, we spent 3 weeks, and actually the good news is that we've also gone back now and we're revisiting that data set. We're doing more enrichment. So we're going to keep building on a data set. Failing twice wasn't us saying, okay, we're going to throw in the towel. It was us saying, okay, let's keep going back and figure out what other features that we can bring in and keep trying the model. But now we can do it, like I said, on a daily iteration.
But that iteration is key, because otherwise you're going to put in so much effort and you don't know whether you got any value. When you can figure out whether there's value very quickly, failure is not failure at that point. It's just who was it that when inventing the Edison said about the light bulb, right? It just found all the wrong ways to do it. So I'm quoting him terribly badly right now, but I think failing fast is important. The other thing you mentioned is people getting stuck. Like people at the conference have been asking you, hey, I'm stuck, what do I do?
Yeah, and I guess I probably should have pointed out, and this is also brought up at the Gartner keynote, is that a good starting point is small data. Right? And so I'll kind of joke about my very first big data conference that I went to 5 or 6 years ago. I was stunned at how much people struggled with small data, right? And so 5 or 6 years ago, the challenges were data governance, getting permission to get people's data. And usually when you're in a data analytics function, people don't trust you, right? Because they figure you're going to expose weaknesses in their operations, in their data collection. You're going to make them look bad, right? That hasn't changed. that still hasn't changed. So hearing them talk about small data, it's still a challenge, right? But I think the other thing is I think you declared us as the record winner of also bringing the smallest data set.
Actually, somebody has beaten you since then,
really?
But
okay.
You were the record winner at the time.
We briefly held the title for bringing a really small data set and getting insights. And so while I talked about my journey moving from Excel to this big HANA database, really we're aggregating billions of rows of data. You don't need to have the data like that. The data doesn't have to be clean. It doesn't have to be in a data warehouse. It could be in a spreadsheet, and you could get insights out of it. So I think that was another key message. that the Gartner team made about small data. So definitely, I think I didn't talk about the ease of the startup, but your platform is cloud-based. The IT approval was literally almost non-existent. It was a rubber stamp, right? Because right now we have a standardized cloud approval process.
Right.
My data didn't go to
Into
your
my cloud, it
instance.
stays your
Your
control.
code didn't come onto my instance. So we maintained that firewall, but we were able to quickly prove that data. The data could have been in Salesforce, it could have been on AWS, it could have been a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So I think what's really great about your platform is it gives everyone a starting point, whether it's small data, whether it's big data, whether the data is integrated, whether the data is disparate. I also didn't talk about the feature innovation that you're doing around just some of the data manipulation features.
Yeah.
You can join data in Aible, you can transpose data sets, you can pivot. You don't have to leave Aible to do some of the basic analysis to try to fail fast or succeed fast.
I think what was fun was Ted gave us some advice on the customer advisory board, and I think the team got the prototype working within like 2-3 days. We had the prototype working, and we got it into production in the first full release after that. So, but like, we love this kind of customer feedback, because when you guys ask for something, we're like, wow, customers want some feature from us. We'll go build it out immediately.
Yeah,
So,
and then one thing that I'll mention, I mentioned it earlier about the partnership that we've had on the analytics. What I love is when a vendor wants us to be successful, right? And so over the years, I've been able to find that with a few key vendors, and I feel like we're on that path with Aible. We put in our initial order, and we probably spent more time with you after the order than we did before the order, which is my expectation, right? Because what I'll do to you is I'll keep bringing you new use cases. I'll introduce you to other people within our company, but I want that partnership. And so I feel like when we get on the call, you want me to be successful just as much as I want you to be successful in your space, because we don't have another tool like Aible.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you so very much, Ted. I really appreciate you doing this.